The Therapist and the Coach podcast is a space for real relational conversations about what it means to be human.
In a world obsessed with fixing, achieving, and self-help, we invite you to pause, lean in, and discover the wisdom already inside.
Together, we explore how healing, growth, and transformation can happen not in isolation, but in connection.
Through open-hearted dialogue, we challenge the myth of self-regulation and self-improvement, offering instead co-regulation, psychological safety, and the power of being seen.
Good morning, Oren.
Good morning, Lerae.
I know. I say this every time, but I just look forward to our Thursday conversations, our Thursday podcast. And,
Yes.
in our, we intended this to be real relational conversations that reflect the development of our conversation and the thread of that, but also our relationship, because we didn't know each other when we started this. Again,
You said that it was like
it
you
was
just
the
told me.
third. Our third conversation ever was our first podcast
Yeah.
recording. Yeah.
And
And
you just told me it's the 17th podcast already.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And yeah. And, it's just been a few months. Like it hasn't even, maybe 6 months now or 5 months. But yeah, it's just been amazing to get to know you. So I just want to
The same.
acknowledge the
Yeah,
incredible
the same
human you
here. And I'm
are.
very grateful
And
for
just, okay. So with that being said, we've been having this conversation that organically emerged about imposter syndrome, or what's referred to as imposter syndrome. Some people might be not have heard of that, but it is an aspect of the human condition. That's my language. You might have different language, but that's the language I use in my
it.
coaching practice.
Yep, yep.
That a lot of people experience, and yet it's not talked about because it's that aspect of self we actually try to keep hidden. So we've been unpacking that a little bit in the last two podcasts, and I know there's some conversation that you want to also bring forward around something that's emerging in the collective, in our consciousness, but also behaviorally in humanity. And it's this aspect of narcissistic tendencies and or behaviors, and maybe there's a continuum of that. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
from a disorder perspective, which might be more therapeutic, to a coaching perspective, which we don't delve into that therapy, but we may work with the spectrum of those behaviors as people experience them and are working through them in their coaching conversations with a coach. But I just wanted to set the stage with that to invite you to speak to that, because you do have that background in the neuroscience and the science and the psychology of what's going on there.
Yeah. So, I was thinking just before we started, wanted to talk about the syndrome itself, and that we kind of like it's kind of universal, I think, and I think it's like most people are having aspects of them.
Not all, but
Not
most definitely. I don't
most
think.
most have aspects of them that are hidden. We're not going. I mean, we all have secrets. We all have things that we are ashamed of, that we maybe started a trajectory, because when we come here to the world, we're just like a beam of lights. We don't know shame, we don't know right, we don't discriminate, we don't judge. So it's all these things that starts from the beginning within interaction, because we talked about relationships, how relationships are basically molding us, shaping us. Like we said last time, the tree that can grow, the tree bark that can go either this way
Straight up,
or that way or this way or that way, or different.
or that, like who knows what way, like always.
Right,
Yeah.
right, kind of goes. And when I said twisted, when I'd like people to understand that it's not like right or wrong, but it's a circumstances of life that, once we kind of land on this earth, we are exposed to the 3D life events, the 3D life that is not easy. So all of a sudden we're scared of things, we are ashamed of things, we are told what's right and what's wrong. And so many times our core self is shamed. We want, let's say, we are very vibrant, and there's some kids, for example, are born with a lot of energy, and some other kids might born much more quieter. They have a different energy. I'm just giving an example, and the parents might be saying, "Oh, you're just too much. You just go to sleep already," because it's uncomfortable for them. They're tired. And that's what happens to the kid, that all of a sudden, without noticing or knowing why, themselves, who they are, is shamed. People think about shaming that this, you have to say something shameful, but shame is going much, much deeper underneath that. And so many times
Implicit. It's so
it's very
implicit.
implicit. Yeah. So we kind of go, all of a sudden, this kid with so much energy kind of grows to be quieter, and all this energy is spent out. And you live in an environment that you're supposed to behave in certain ways, while you actually don't know that, but you're not really part of it. You don't want that. You want to do something very different that might be not acceptable for your parents, for your heritage, for your environment. So you start kind of like putting defense mechanisms around you while you're not getting the narcissistic needs that you actually need. I just want to say something about narcissistic.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, like,
I, I,
sometimes we throw those terms around and know what
yeah,
they mean, but like, whoa, what is that?
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really important to when we talk about narcissism, usually the society says, "Oh, he's or she's a narcissist," right? And it's bad.
Mhm.
What people don't really understanding that narcissistic needs, what is narcissist? It's about me, right? It's me, 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 me. When we are born, it's supposed to be about us.
Mhm.
Kids cannot, they're not developed, any kid are not developed to give anything,
Mhm.
but they're supposed to get care, love, food, shelter, and feel safe in the world. Talked about safety in our podcast a lot, but
Right.
it starts from there.
Trust and
Then
safety.
at the times, yeah, the safety of being you, all of you, not perfect, not that, but being you. And that sometimes rubs against what your parents' injuries or your society or the way they expect you to be rather than who you are, that might be not comparable to what they expect of you. So what happens is that your narcissistic needs, so kids that needs, they are narcissistic. It's about them. It's okay. It's part of developmental stage that if it's not about them or us at the beginning, and we start taking care of our parents, for example, that's another example. Let's say that my mom was, for example, depressed. As a kid, your parents are your whole world. Whether
They
they're
are
good,
your safety. They are
they
your
are your safety,
yeah.
they are everything. If they are not okay, you're not okay. So
Mhm.
the moment we are, let's say the kid energetically, and kids are all limbic system. They still did not develop.
Response.
They
Mhm.
did not develop the prefrontal cortex to understand things. So it's more like reactionary. It's more like emotional. If they don't
Mhm.
not happy, they start crying. If they're all of a sudden happy, they don't lie. They don't lie. They just explode. They just show it up. But little by little, if they are shamed for the way they respond, they will learn by experience. This is the implicit memories every day, that if they are showing the way themselves the way they are, but meet with a response that is not kind or dismissive or shameful, and it could be just like a could be like even your mom kind of or dad's kind of like, oh, just a look, even energetically, kids feels that. So they start putting themselves down. They start getting that shame. It starts from then. Another example for that would be then again, mom or dad or that struggle. And they might not struggle, let's say that they even have money, but the kid feels that they are struggling emotionally. They're heightened, their sensor are so heightened to see how their parents are and try to take care of them, whether they can't, but they're inside worried. They might go to mom and try to be with her in their own way. And sometimes the mom even says just like, I don't have energy for that, but the kid's actually trying to support mom. At that point of time, the kid's needs are gone. So because the kid can go and play and can develop, literally develop to be a straight bark And a stray, then again, a bark is for, it's very individual. There's
Mhm.
just so many trees. They have different barks.
Mhm.
We're all individuals. So the moment the kids start taking care of the emotional needs of the family or the parents, or for whatever reason that they are not able to feel safe enough just to start exploring and being, their developmental stage stops at that point of time because they start taking care of others who are not capable at that point of time, even with all wishful thinking. You know, many people have like a very kind parents that are just not there anymore because they're working all day long, and they just miss the parents, you know, and they miss the father or the mom. They're just coming very late and tired, and even mom and dad wants to be there with them. They're tired. The kids get that. And by the way, there is no faulting here. I'm not
Yes.
blaming anyone. I'm just trying to describe that the narcissistic needs that needs to happen. It's a healthy thing. It's an important, healthy thing to give to the kids. They are selfish. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be about them. If they don't get the narcissistic needs and from very young age start being altered because of the interaction with the environment that shame them, that doesn't allow them, doesn't give them what they need, these needs are not going away. And that's where we develop a narcissistic injury. And it means that if you see an adult, that it's all about them. It's constantly when you talk to them and they might be smiling and might be bearing. A lot of narcissists later on are very charming people in about that. And you kind of know when you talk to them that even if they look at you for you, it's not for you, it's for them. And that's where it starts. Or there can be narcissism that it's very blatant and you see like nobody cares about you and they even say that. And you just know about them. But that injury, that narcissism later on, is a byproduct of not getting what you needed as a child. So while we are growing in age, you cannot stop that, you know.
Mhm.
We might grow with age, but the little kid inside your internal world might open up a very big wound or smaller wound, but wounds stem up from much, much earlier that we didn't get what we needed. We learned to adapt to the world to get what we need anyway. But
Mhm.
it's basically going to the same injury inside that is kind of like almost like a well that is constantly open, that you constantly need to bring things inside. And that's where we're buying things and addicted to
Yeah.
things and constantly have 10,000 relationships that there is no really actually any meaning. It's almost like putting a lot of junk food inside that it's never what you needed, but that's what you can trust. So because you might not trust that your initial relationships where safety and attachment, healthy attachment was needed, you might have learned by experience with the people that were supposed to provide you the the relationships that you needed, the needs that you needed, they provide you. If that didn't happen there, why would you trust later on that you can attract yourself there? And this is even the plasticity of the brain. So the brain is molded through those initial relationships. And then that brain that already molded hardened a bit as we go with age.
Mhm.
Usually, you know, late 20s, this is where the brain is actually solidified. Not changeable, it's always changeable
Yes.
through relationship. But it solidifies then, but you solidified with the injuries that you carry.
It's just
So
more ingrained. Mhm.
yes, so it's ingrained, and that's what we're trying to do is to fill up the void inside that we never got, and then we're shamed for that. This is the sad part about us criticizing narcissists. While it's not easy to be with somebody, there's not really a relationship, a true relationship with somebody who's narcissist because it's really actually about them. Even if they are there for you, it's about them. That's how children, that's how we were as children. It was not that like when kids come to mom and dad, usually they need something from them. And that's how it should be. But if dad is shamed, then the kids never got what they needed in that developmental stage to individuate, to become the bark, the whole being that they needed to be as they're grown up.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
and at that point they try to fill up the gap inside, not by relationship because they cannot trust relationship, or they might be in relationships that are exactly what they had before, even though they want to escape them because that's what's familiar. I'm going to stop here because I want to hear you too.
Well, I appreciate all that you shared, and there's a word that just I do want to capture here and highlight you because you said it very quickly, and yet it is so important. And I only know the word because of my study and experience in education and psychology. But as far as the human experience, and it's like we've got different jobs at different stages as we grow as human beings that are um, globally consistent, like just from a biological standpoint and psychological standpoint. But this individuation, you just said the word really fast. I want to highlight it because I think it's something we do need to come back to because
Well,
it does provide a model or an outline for what we can do now, even as adults. So, from a coaching perspective, it is why I believe like therapy has a place and coaching has a place. But the fact that I understand the process of individuation and how important it is, and I want to give people hope because it can happen at any time.
percent.
It can be truncated and or not happen and or partially done um, if these needs aren't met. But they're just like you're saying the brain, because the brain's connected with all of this. So is the heart, so is the gut. We can get into that later. We've got so much to talk about. But that individuation process gives us so much hope and capacity for growth and change.
100%.
Now, so with that, and there's also this idea and distinction that has also emerged between what you're referring to as a narcissistic need and how that's distinct from values. That
Yes.
is a lot of work that I do in coaching is what is the need? How do you get that met? And how that getting needs met often distracts from living oriented around one's values, which is a whole different thing.
Mhm.
And it's where fulfillment and energizing and where our soul design lives is really our, unique set of values that equal how we show up in the world in a really meaningful way, or how we make meaning and as a result experience fulfillment.
Yeah.
So I know I'm taking us a little sidebar here, but these
Oh, it's all
points are
good.
really important. And something that I did want you to speak to, if you wouldn't mind, because I'm thinking about people like, because narcissism, you mentioned several times in what you were saying, is being thrown around like we understand what it means. And so I guess it might be important here from a therapeutic standpoint to address what's the difference between the disorder, like the personality disorder, and the continuum of needs not being
Continue.
met. Like what's the
Okay.
distinction or difference there? And then the sub question is the disorder treatable? Because I don't know, my experience is a hard no. I mean, even though I believe in possibility, because the whole presence of that disorder means that it's someone else's fault. And I'm
Yes.
busy protecting myself from that state. So I'm going
Or
to
not,
stop now.
or not fixable, like so many times. So these are very, very good questions. I want to start actually with the latest one, with the latter one.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I want to tell people that scientifically, we know today that we can change at any point of time in our life, any point of time.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying like changing like the way you are, your habits, changing by doing something. We can really structurally change the brain. The brain is moldable.
Okay, I'm going to jump in with
Yes.
a common because what I've noticed that in our language, and I don't know if this is global because I don't speak other languages, but in English and in North American culture, as far as I know, it might be otherwhere. There's these phrases that we pick up, and what I'm learning is that those phrases, which like here it is, you can't teach an old dog new tricks,
Right.
right? That means well, this is just the way I am, deal with it.
Oh, this
Or
is
I
fantastic
can't
what you
learn.
just said. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I just want to speak to this because what I've actually begun to see as I've delved more into this truth that we can change at any time, the neuroplasticity, we've talked about the the quantum physics and the ability to change each other through co-regulation, actually change our brains and our energetic makeup. It's all so fascinating. But these phrases that I always received as truth, because they stood through ages, they're rooted somewhere back when, they actually justify not
Yes. Yes.
changing or growing.
Yes.
They
Yes. Oh, yeah.
justify continuing to perpetuate things I might complain about. But so I
Right.
just had to pop in and say that because you're countering some truth, some language that's in
Well,
our
some assumptions, some
awareness,
assumptions.
our
Actually,
collective
yeah,
awareness.
people
Assumption.
that
Yeah.
yeah, assumptions that we cannot really change. Thank you for that. I mean, the phrase "you can't," yeah, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
New
Okay,
tricks. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
does not apply to us. And here is the misconception and the problem. I want to touch about that, and then I know that we'll go back to that also in the next episode because it's like we just started in here. Um, Human mind, so many times when we are trying to change, that's something that we talked about, is that we take all the things that we experience throughout life, we solidify, by late teenage we are pretty much kind of like our brain, we were molded already, so that's what we know. Imagine that this is the vehicle from which you're going everywhere. So this is the vehicle that you have a little either tricycle, or you have, I don't know, incredible van that you go all the way to
Okay. So
many
I just
places.
got a visual of a tree in a, because we've been talking about a tree, like we grow
Yeah,
trees. So
yeah,
this lopsided tree in a
right.
vehicle, driving
Yeah,
in a
yes,
convertible, driving up.
yes,
Okay.
yes. I somehow always eventually veer out to motorsports. Some,
Okay, please continue. And I
yes,
promise I'm not going to interrupt anymore.
no, that's all good. The thing is that when we are molded, we are become that tree, and that tree wants to, let's say, mate with the same. It's not going to attract other trees that it can't mate with. It will try to find the same trees in order to live in this forest. So, and that's also has to do with quantum physics, because that's how we are actually energetically attracted, who we are going to interact, who we're going to invite to our life, what kind of milieu we're going to belong, what trajectory we're going to be, what we're going to study. The whole life has a vista that was shaped then and there, that comes to the here and now.
Mhm.
Now, it feels the problem that we have in our society, and this has to do with the dog and the old tricks, is that we're constantly trusting to learn new things that are not new. Actually, they're from the same pattern that we had a long time ago. So many times we said like, oh, I dated these ones and they're not good. But that's what I was told that. So I'm going to go and try the opposite way. I'm going to try to date people that are very different than what I did. It's energetically, they might be good for us. And so many people, dated people say like, I wish I could fall in love with that person. They're perfect for me, but there's just not alignment
Mhm.
inside because there's something not aligned. The lock doesn't get into the key. So we desperately try to change how we view the world and how to do that to get something that we really want, but inside it's not really who we are. So we end up constantly creating the same pattern, and then we ended up with the saying that we can't. As you get older, even it's harder because you keep doing the same things even though you think it's new. You learn, you read about that, you say, oh, this is this, oh, this is, but you actually carry yourself anywhere. It's like you go
There's
to, you
there,
know
yes. So there's two really, really important quotes that have guided me through this and kept my curiosity alive. And one actually is from a philosopher in like 83 AD, and it's originally in Latin, but it translates to they change their skies, not their souls, those who run across the sea. So
yes.
describing the human experience, this what you're talking about. It's like, okay, I keep moving relationships, jobs, cities, countries, or the other, wherever you go, there you are. And
Yes.
I'm always disappointed in some way because like, why does this follow me? Like, why am I like, I thought this was
Yeah.
going to be the answer or
Yeah.
this
Right.
external to myself.
Right. Right.
Or the grass is always greener. That's another bit of
Exactly. The
language
same thing.
that
Yes. The same
that
thing.
we continue to follow. So wherever I go, there I am. And that's what you're saying basically is I can be the tree that grows in a certain way because I come into the world in one way, and then my environment and my experiences shape me, nature nurture. And then I put myself in a vehicle and I go off in my life, in the world, and I have these experiences, but I'm taking myself wherever I go.
It's exactly right.
Um, and
With
therefore,
narcissistic needs that we didn't get anywhere, trying desperately to get it.
that I'm
But
unaware that I have. And that's the
yes.
thing. It's like a self-deception, but it's
Mhm.
not even self-deception in a mean like in a I mean to be deceived way. It's that I'm immune to the original injury because I didn't know what was happening.
Right. And then you start carrying shame of who you are inside.
Oh my goodness.
And that's because it was shamed from the beginning and you keep getting the same things that something is wrong with you.
Mm.
And so it's such a crime because you were not allowed to be whole, who you are from the beginning, because of the many parts of you were shamed. And then you take that because that's how you know how to be and keep shaming yourself by making the same choices that were done to it for you long
And
time ago.
yet as an adult, or as that person in the car of life, the situations one finds themselves in are more complex, and more there's more coming at you informationally or socially, or pressure wise to succeed or to show up in a certain way.
Especially, yeah,
And
especially in left brain society, that it's all
yes,
about consumption and it's all about learning from the left
yes,
brain. Read a book. How can a read a book can give you trust to trust somebody that
yes.
this is a human interaction. And if you
Oh,
have all
and
these,
again, it's more external. It's like
it is,
where, getting your information from the external as opposed to going inside and learning to trust
the
self,
answers
start
are
to
inside.
unpack those. The answers are inside, which is what we always say. Client has their own answers. I don't
Yes.
know what that, shows up at in the therapy realm. But we have only a few minutes here left, probably about three. And I know that you've got a hard stop. So I wanted to just check in, and we're obviously going to keep this conversation going because
Yeah.
it's very alive in
There's
both
not
of
much more
us.
to say about that.
And it really is at the essence of a lot of what I see in coaching is the blocks that people run into. And I think that continuing to unpack this in ways that people can understand, and I hope that people can join this conversation because I'm getting more organized, we're getting more organized to be able to invite people to the conversation as and we'll next week be able to say how. So with that said, we will be inviting people to join our next not next conversation, but the one after that. But for now, is there anything that's really alive in you that feels really important based on what you've shared here today to really
Well, I just wanted to
highlight?
kind of, yes, I just wanted to close by saying that the growth, the learning new tricks for, an old dog
Yeah.
are not going to happen, not to a new dog, not to a middle-aged dog or older dog, if we are keep doing what was done to us. That's never going to change, and that's where the phrase came from, because we went about that very wrongly in a way. We went to change something that it's not changeable that way. The good news is that if we are aware of our injuries and start finding an environment, a coach, a therapist, a husband, a wife, whatever it is, friends, nature, inside, gradually through that interaction, we are overriding the old and we're building new. And this new, as much as many people that might hear it and won't trust it, it's hard to trust something that you never had. You know, I can tell from my own experience and from others that I've been with, that through relationships that are different. Let's say if I was gay in Israel and it was shamed, and I learned from everyone that it was wrong and I carry it with me, I still came to here with that shame inside me, even though intellectually I know nothing wrong with that. That didn't change nothing. what changed is gradually that I was in an environment that people had absolutely no issue with that. I had issue with that inside me. They didn't. Through that interaction with the new environment, over time, that overrode that old one. And
Mm.
that's where the narcissistic injury are start actually healing. That's where the bark is starting straightening. And that's where the real true change comes, because when things change inside little by little, they never go away. And then it becomes everything effortless. Then things happen to you in a very different way where you are actually you as a whole.
Wow, 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 wow. Mic drop. And I will close by saying that what you just described, I have different words for. I really appreciate how you've articulated where the healing lives. And I've always been so committed to the process of healing forward
Yes.
while moving in life. And you've just described why that's been so important to me, and I never really understood the environment, like in the environment. So the environment matters.
Very
So
much.
I coaching someone in a toxic environment begets more toxicity. It's not my place to tell someone to leave their job, but in the coaching environment, one might come to see that that is an important step that needs to be taken, and or within that environment, but in the safety and trusting environment of a healing relationship like coaching, they can begin to be seen. And
Yes.
we say those words now, they're in the human consciousness. They're I hear them more, this being seen. But again,
Mhm.
what does that mean? And it
It's very, very
means
right.
that these parts of me that are ashamed are seen, and I'm
Yes.
loved anyway. And it goes back
Yes.
to, I've said it
Yes.
before, but it's my favorite quote, Elizabeth Gilbert, beautiful human, on her own journey and sharing that with others in so many ways, says that um, being seen, fully seen, so in the way that you're talking about, in those narcissistic wounds and those shame based places, being seen, fully seen, and loved anyway is a human offering that borders on miraculous.
100%.
It's true.
If we could, it could only all of us be, just be who
Yeah.
we are, everything would look so much different.
Yes. And I'm starting to see more and more too that therapy, coaching, whatever healing modality it is, I mean, namaste, the beauty in me sees the beauty in you, that in yoga, like that,
Yes.
it is actually the way I think we're meant to be together.
Uh-huh.
And part of what is really, really motivating me right now in my work and in my world is to um, really like lean into humanness. And I think we're talking about the human experience here in ways that are really important. So I'm so grateful for you to be
No,
my
the
partner.
same here. We just kind of started. There will be much more to come. We will talk about it way more in the next episode, I think, because
Okay.
there's so much more.
Okay.
Including, we will speak about the process of individuation and how it starts, and because we'll give people context how everything starts and how we get to individuation. It's
And
the
I'd love to talk about this distinction between needs and values, because that
Oh yeah,
can be
yeah.
like a
We'll
way.
get there.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to get there.
We're
All
gonna
right.
get
All right. Take care. And I'm just going to stop the
you
recording
too. May all people in the world have peace and love and
for self
kindness and
and others.
kindness for self first and others. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Oren.